you know, just cool that they're not just out there doing a job, they're doing something that they love and that they care about and they're passionate about it. And it shows, and it, I don't know, it meant a lot to me. My name is Kevin Hildebrand, and I had a barn fire back in February of 2011. I remember the day. It was a Wednesday. I had been at work, and it was lunchtime, and all of a sudden I got a phone call from my neighbor lady who lived across the road from us, and she says, "You know what, I see smoke coming out of your barn." And she says, "It's a lot." And so I told her right away, "Just call 911, I'll be right there." And so I left work, I raced down the highway, I got home, and 4 miles away I could see this black cloud of smoke in the air. And I knew it wasn't going to be good. And I got on the yard, and sure enough, there were flames coming from outside of the building at that point. And I stood there because I had animals in the barn. And you know what, that's a big part of who I am and my livelihood and part of my hobby. It's what I enjoy, right? And there was just those few moments where I'm standing there by myself and I'm watching part of my life go up in smoke. And then a few minutes later, Andy Thiessen, the fire chief, pulls up. He sees what's going on. He comes over right away and just wanted to make sure I was okay, that there's nobody in the barn. I just asked, like, "What do you need me to do?" And he's like, "You know what, just step aside, we can do our thing." And the guys came on with the trucks, and like I said, it was a horrible stormy day. It was cold, it was windy, and they were standing out there trying, basically what they had to do is they were trying to control the fire from burning down our house and everything else. We had our main hydro pole was right by the barn, and so their big concern was, don't let that thing burn. The barn couldn't be saved, the animals couldn't be saved, let's save the house. They did such an amazing job. Before the fire was even out, Andy came to me and he's like, "Okay, where do you think this started?" So he started scraping around in the ashes and looking for stuff, and within half an hour he pulls out this length of wire and he says, "Right here, this is where it started." He says, "There will have been a mouse in the wall, bit this wire, shorted it out, caused the fire." It was a mouse, it was an accident. And so just in such a short time, my house didn't burn down, the barn was gone, but I knew I hadn't done anything wrong. Just, you know, because that was my biggest thing. It's like, how have I screwed up and ruined this stuff? You know, just the fact that they were there through that weather. Like, I live 15 miles out of town, and it was such a cold, stormy day. It took them 45 minutes to drive from Morden to my farm. And by the time they got there, their water tanker was frozen up. So they actually had to go to a neighbor, drill a hole through the ice to get into the dugout to pump out water, haul that over, just, you know, and with that the Winkler tanker trucks had come to help out with that. And they stayed there till 11:30 that night, making sure that it wasn't going to flare up, that the wind wasn't all of a sudden going to pick up and start throwing sparks onto our roof and stuff like that. They were just committed, they weren't going to leave. As it turned out, even a couple of years later, I was getting a load of firewood from some guy that I had seen on Pembina Valley online. And you know, he said he was going to deliver it to me, so I told him where I lived. And he shows up, and he pulls on the yard, and he comes up to me and he says, "Yeah," he says, "I thought I had been here before." He said, "I didn't know why until I noticed the hydro lines above the driveway." And I automatically think, this is weird, like, why were you here and why did that trigger anything? And then he told me he had been one of the firefighters that had been there that day. And you know, he was so happy to see that I had a new barn there. And so he took a tour through the barn, and it's just cool. Like, even, you know, even now when I meet the guys from Winkler, a lot of them know who I am, but I don't have a clue who they were, right? They were all in their equipment. And you know what, they'll come up to me and they'll say, "Hey, so like, how are things doing? Did you ever get the barn rebuilt? Where is it all at now?" And you know what, a big thank you to all of the volunteer firefighters and safety personnel out there. You guys do a great job. You probably don't get recognized for it nearly as much as you should. And you know what, as someone who's needed you and you came through and you helped me out, thank you very much.